Hello and welcome back. I'm Darcy Darkness, and this is Confessions from the Dark Side. And today I present to you Mother. Yes, Mother. Why Mother? Well, first of all, hello and welcome back. I'm Darcy Darkness, and this is Confession from the Dark Side. And how are you getting on? Are we good? Okay. So, the disclaimer before we start, before I offend someone. I'll get the disclaimer out of the way. We are full of so much adult content. Some of you may think this is unnecessary. Some of you may think that this isn't needed. If you are one of those people, then thanks for checking us out. But I will say this only once. If you can't stand the hate, then get the fuck out of my kitchen. Now, for everyone else who likes what we have here, then the regular scheduled programming will continue. Shall we get started? Are we ready? Well, why is it Mother? Well, in the United Kingdom, we don't have the same Mother's Day as the rest of the world. We have ours on in March for some reason. So this podcast is called Happy Smothering Sunday for Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day for everyone, whether you celebrate it today or in May. I think America's May and the rest of the world is May, but the United Kingdom has to be fucking different, I suppose. What we're covering today. Well, this weekend, today is Mothering Sunday. And here was me thinking, why don't we celebrate the unhinged, deranged mothers who thought they were doing right by their loved ones, by the way they were raising their families, by protecting, loving, and nurturing them like no other mother has done before them. Where some mothers have failed, these mothers have taken it upon themselves not to make the same mistakes of the mothers before them and create a new normal that never answers the questions of how, what, and why. Just that it's my job. I am their mother and I will do whatever it takes to protect them at every cost. Okay? So, when does it become unhinged? And we are going to discuss that in a few questions. How many mothers have been misunderstood in their children's upbringing, and how much have abused the power of being a mother for personal gain? Do you think there are any other mothers in real life who have abused their powers of being a mother on their children? I think we will cover that probably on a true crime podcast at some point. What crazy, passionate mothers can we name today, and why are they on this list? On Smothering Sunday. For the evil mothers out there in film, right off the bat, Corinne and Olivia. Now, this is from a book that was interpreted into a movie that my mum thought, well, was socially acceptable for me to watch as a young child. Now, Flowers in the Attic, if you are not aware of that fuck up movie and book by Virginia Andrews, Virginia Andrews wrote a story, a bunch of books, a series that focused on this family. And they are really weird, sinister, well, past, present, future. More of a lesson learned type of thing, kind of. There's always a lesson in a lot of these type of stories, as we know. Not only is the mother evil, sinister, the grandmother is just as bad, if not worse. I don't really want to go into the nitty gritty of the story if you haven't seen it. And if you have seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. My mum thought it was a good idea for me to watch things like this, like period dramas and shit like that, not thinking it's going to fuck me up in the head and give me a weird, obscure, well, insight into the world. And I know it's fiction, but a child watching this shit is never good, especially a child who was undiagnosed and being autistic. Again, she let me watch anything, and I love my mum. You know, my mum passed away in 2022. I have my weirdness a little bit from her. So, again, Flowers in the Attic. I may have not turned out the way I am today if it wasn't for movies like this, and probably a lot of the period dramas that she let me watch or had on in the background when I was literally there. I like me. So she helped with that, I suppose. This relationship was, if not sinister and outrageous, the stories of Flowers in the Attic alone was memorable and not in a good way. The book has even more visuals that you don't need and they live rent free in my head. Greed and not need for both mother and grandmother, when not only the mother has a sinister side, but also the years of abuse of her own mother, the grandmother to her children did to her in turn. She allowed this to happen to her own children, and all for greed and money. It was a family estate, and they were wanting the money, and they did everything they fucking could to get it, no matter what it did to the children. This wasn't for protection and love, this was for money, greed and personal gain. Not a good mother or grandmother. What sort of start did these children suffer at the hands of these twisted women? It's horrific to think. The story was actually based on some facts from the author's doctor. Apparently Virginia Andrews spent a lot of time in a wheelchair, and when your doctor was in speaking to her, she would speak about previous families or whatever and just like talk shop. I think she probably shouldn't discuss with your own patients, but I think it's because she kind of didn't get out and she she obviously lived through other people's experiences who spoke to her on a day-to-day basis. So they spoke about some children that were hidden in an attic. I didn't really go into much detail, but obviously she's created this elaborate story from the information, maybe from the doctor, maybe from other people's information and conversations that she had. A bunch of kids by a family hidden in an attic. Not sure how the sinister actually happened, if that was just her brain and the creation of this story, but it's still twisted. What's worse, a bad biological mother or a stepmother? Because I bet Cinderella has a few choice words about her father's taste in women, that's for sure. One of the stories romanticised by Disney, an evil, wicked stepmother and her jealousy of her husband's love between his child and that he needed a mother for her, yet it seems he just wanted to offload her so he could go off and do as he pleased. Between him being killed off or dying mysteriously, no one else find that odd and peculiar that the true heir, Cinderella by the way, is shoved into the corner and made to be a slave for her stepmother and her stepsisters. They get everything and she got nothing but a glimmer of a life that she should have had and a memory of loving parents as if that life didn't even exist there. Again, Disney and their happily ever afters always start off dark, dank and sinister, don't they? Hellraiser. Not only being a terrible stepmother to Kirsty, she also cheats on her father with his brother Frank, raises the uncle from the dead, makes sacrifices for her lover, murders Kirsty's father anyway, for her lover, and then Hellraiser brought her back for the sequel. Yes, she was loved that much that she was brought back, sacrificing everyone for the D she wants and treating her stepdaughter like shit and killing her dad. Special place in Pinhead's holiday camp for you. Yes, there is for you. And we all know that from Hellraiser. No one ever gets out alive. The People Under the Stairs. Now, this is a messed up Wes Craven film. Yes, Wes Craven, he does have some very good movies. He also has some weirdly obscure fucked up ones too, and this is one. The movie is messed up on so many levels, but Mommy is a treasure. Her treatment of her daughter, torturing and keeping people prisoner under the stairs and having sex with her brother, they refer to as Daddy. All in bondage. Sounds like happy families. Yes, she's a piece of work. So there's that, Mommy, for you. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Now, again, another movie that I was far too young to see, yet I did see it. It's a thriller, but the horror of this is it's not too far-fetched to actually happen in the world that we live in, especially today. So a creepy OBGYN doctor is taking advantage of his patients by sexually assaulting them while they're in for their checkups. And these women are pregnant, and the women take it upon themselves to sue the man, the doctor. Well, he's found guilty. He can't deal with the actions of his crimes, so he unalives himself, as you do. Not only has he put his family through that crap, his wife loses their baby, and in a truly women-scorned fashion, a mother scorned. She goes after the main woman who was suing her husband, that she feels is to blame for her life being ruined and her not being a mother. Well, she was a mother, but you know what I mean, she never got to bring her baby home. And again, as heartbreaking as that is, she takes it upon herself to get revenge on all this for her life being ruined, even though it was her husband's stupid fucking choices and abuses of power as being a doctor to go after this family. So not only does she turn the eldest daughter against the mother, she also breastfeeds the new baby, and she poses as the nanny as well. Obviously she's still lactating because it can happen for months afterwards, and even when you stop breastfeeding, your milk still comes through. So the baby, to stop nursing from his mother, gets a natural bond between mother and child, and then tries to go for the husband as well. This woman successfully does this to an extent, and then obviously things don't start adding up, and the wife and mother realizes that that woman isn't who she says she is. She is the doctor that assaulted her's wife, and puts a stop to it. But how much has this affected her? How much has it affected her family? And how much has it affected her relationship with her husband? Peyton, the woman who was married to the evil as fuck doctor, was abusing his power as a doctor. She has serious Bunny Boiler Psycho at its finest vibes for this movie. But again, the whole, is it the rhyme? The hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world, because mother is God to children. They are everything to your child. So that movie was creepy, sinister, thriller, and it literally does stay in your head because again, something like that could easily happen in real life. So we have Dead Alive next, which is a Peter Jackson classic. Peter Jackson needs to do more like this. He needs to go back to that Peter and get that fucking Lord of the Rings Peter. Fuck. We want him back. We want Dead Alive. We want Bad Taste. We want the fucking Frighteners. Come on, to fuck. Just fucking do something like this. Well, not a very good start with this one. An overbearing mother to her son Lionel totally abuses him by guilting him to stay, not having a proper life, not letting him experience things like girlfriends and dating and falling in love and just having friends in general. She wants to keep him close. She apparently is protecting him when she's not. She's controlling him because, again, scorned mother, scorned wife, scorned everything else. So he gets blamed for everything. It's always a child who gets the blame, not them themselves, which really annoys me. So his mother ends up getting bitten by a rat-like monkey, then becomes a zombie, and then she takes out almost everyone in town. And she was an overbearing control freak before, so imagine what she's like as a zombie. Even though his zombies aren't really, they're aware, but they're not aware. But they still do mess up shit, and Lionel has to deal with them because you end up with not just the mother, but the priest and a nurse, and they're always getting it on, having snooze doing stuff and just doing messed up shit. So yeah, so not only does Lionel have to look after his mother when she's not a zombie, he has to look after her when she's a zombie and everybody else. And it's again another guilt of him thinking he can't leave his mother because she's been bitten and he would be alone, but then he's not, and then he has a girlfriend through all this. His mother had to become a zombie to kind of partially let go of the strings of her holding him for that to happen. So there's that. So that's another great mother controlling her child, making them feel guilty. The other mother in Coraline, now this is a family friendly movie, but it's from the writings and the mind of Neil Gaiman, who not only I love, but my husband does as well. We absolutely love Neil Gaiman's work. So Coraline is based in a creepy kind of animated world. It's the weird family friendly movie. But poor Coraline has moved into a new place, a new home, a new school. Her parents are trying to get their business off the ground, so you can imagine that their parents are like kind of neglecting their child to try and get their business off the ground. And yes, it comes across as being shallow and selfish. But at the end of the day, they're trying to better their lives for their family. But in that time, instead of one of the parents actually maybe taking more time to do with their daughter, they've had to move and they've changed place and they've changed everything. So there's a big change in Coraline's life. Again, they don't take that into consideration when they're actually doing what they're doing. So she creates this fictitious life. Is it real? Is it not? The house that they move into, there's all this mystery, and it's like how much is the child's intelligence and imagination, and how much is actually the house and the sinister creation. So she creates the parents that she thinks that she wants over the parents that she has. And the more time she spends there, the more she doesn't want to go back. And this other mother plays on this. And it gets to the point where Coraline realizes that that world is not real. And that other mother isn't that mother that she created. She's feeding off what she wants. And the evil, sinister of using the child to lure into like a false sense of love, protection, security. And she's actually just using her so she can literally kill her eventually. And she can never ever leave. She realizes that her family aren't as bad as what they are. And she had to go through that traumatic experience of feeling neglected and unloved by her parents and going in and immersing herself into this world, that the other mother is so evil that her real mother could never do that to her, and her real mother does love her, but she just hasn't really shown it, especially with the stresses of moving and everything changing. And she realizes her life is not as bad as it seems. So the other mother, again, the entity, not very good, but the parents of Coraline should know better, that not only have they changed everything that Coraline has known from her previous life, they have changed everything for the greater good, yeah. But also they didn't make sure that their daughter was okay, and check-ins and making sure that everything was okay in school and she was settling in. They didn't care. No, they didn't care. There was a lot of things going on, and her mother in this was in the wrong. She was trying to do something good, but at what effect to their daughter? So yeah, I don't think Coraline's mother or the other mother was trying to be like the mother she wanted, but again, an extent of luring her away from her own family. We have the Black Swan. Even though we don't see as much of Nina's mother, from the scenes that we do see, I get a pageant mother type feel, like she's pushed her daughter. She's noticed her daughter's had talent, and she's pushed and she's pushed and she's pushed. She's pushed her to the point where her daughter pushes herself even more, to the point where she has a mental break because of it. She's living the life that she wanted through her daughter, because she may have not got the chances or may have not got the start in life or the career that she wanted. She lives through her daughter, and a lot of pageant mothers do that as well. It's something that's missing from their life, and they push it onto their daughter and their children for them to accomplish the things that they didn't. And this behaviour is not on. It's not fair to put your children under that amount of pressure for something that they might think they want because you've told them enough, which is abuse in itself. So definitely not a good mother right there. Annie in Hereditary. So we've talked about this movie once or twice before, and different aspects of the grief, different aspects of the darkness and the sinister of the story. But this family life, and without too many spoilers if you haven't seen it, Annie's own mother has sacrificed a lot when she was growing up. And obviously that's obscured how she sees herself as a mother and how she is a mother. And is she a good mother for her children? You find out that the grandmother, Annie's mother, was actually involved in witchcraft. And they're trying to say Satanism as well, not the same thing, but they're basically saying that the grandmother's sacrifices were for the good of her religion and the good of the way she was living her life. Now Annie finds out that her daughter, that you see in a lot of the artwork for the movie, she has a weird ass connection and to the grandmother, who's deceased now. And you find out the family secrets and curses, and they all unravel. And you see Annie break because she's already lost a child, and it seems to have been at the fate of her other child, the sibling. And at this point in time, she realizes that not only has her family's curses been passed on through her and onto her children, that she could have put a stop to it, but it seems that she doesn't feel that she's strong enough, I think, just the way that I perceived it, because she lived with that mother and she grew up with that mother, and she thought that she was just doing things right by her family, and she wasn't, because in the end, Annie herself was a victim of her own mother's ways and her own mother's upbringing of her, and a wee bit of that would kind of overspill into your children if you actually aren't aware of the things that you've been put through, for one, and the things that most people would be like, hold on a minute, that's not right, and you shouldn't be doing that. It was perfectly normal for her and her upbringing. So if that's normal, then passing it on to your own children isn't that far-fetched. We have Beverly Stupin in Serial Mom. Yes, this again, and yes, Beverly fits this description, in which she is protective and loyal to her family and wants to shield and protect them from the outside world. And she will stop at nothing in the process. And we all know about Serial Mom. She literally was taking out who she thought was a bad apple, who was hurting her family, and who was not a good seed, put it that way. So Beverly Stupin, yes, she did a lot of messed up shit, but she did do it in her own way. Don't agree with some of the shit she did. She was funny, but taking a life of any sort, not good. But she's definitely better than the ones that I've read in the previous categories today. She definitely is. The others were Nicole Kidman. For one, I'll to give you a wee backstory of this with me. I went to see this at cinema and fell asleep. Not because the movie was boring, it's just I was very, very tired. And then I tried to watch it on DVD, like obviously when it was released, and I kept falling asleep at the same bit. I managed to not fall asleep this one time and realised that the others in Nicole Kidman, there was a clean cut sign why the fog didn't leave. And why they didn't leave the house. It wasn't to do with this rare condition that she told the staff that came to work for her that she had, and they couldn't go outside and they couldn't be touched by sunlight and all that carry on. It was because they were already dead. Nicole Kidman's character had unalived herself and her children, and she was stuck in that house. Now, she was in that house during World War II alone while her husband went off to war, and she was waiting for him to come back, as you do. And in that time, as you can imagine, a war, some people don't come back, and she was left to run the house herself and look after the children while all this is going on. So it was incredibly devastating. If she knew her husband wasn't coming back, or she just got to the point where he'd been away for years and she literally couldn't do this alone, couldn't raise a family and run a household. But the others were there to show her that she had to move on, and she was keeping her children there. Not only did she take their lives, she also was keeping them there and not letting them move on. which was incredibly selfish. Her herself didn't realise she was dead, though. That's the thing. She did not know that she had unalived herself and her children. She did not know that. So she had to come to terms with not only what she did to herself, what she did to her children, and what she was continuing to put her children through. So even after taking them out of the living world, she was still controlling them and manipulating them and holding them against them moving on, being laid to rest, crossing over. So as she did in life, she did them in death. There's that with Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman was awesome in that, though. She played a really, really good character in that. I love Nicole Kidman. She's brilliant. Well, I kept a few ones to closer to the end that you're probably thinking, why have you not mentioned like these popular ones? I'm getting to them. I'm getting to them. So Norma Bates from Psycho. Well, poor Norman was left with not only an abusive mother, but a controlling mother that believes that all women are whores. Even though she's a woman, but that doesn't count there, does it, Norma? She kept him away from friends and anyone who would give him any sort of attention. He had his mother and everything mother said was God. But Norman became this shell of a child into adulthood, and he has a psychotic break where he becomes his deceased mother. And he becomes her more than his own self, like dressing up in her clothes, talking like her, becoming her, having like two-way conversations where it's only him. And he even punishes himself in her voice. His thoughts of women, his thoughts that he is unclean and all, he has to be punished, and that now he ends up this odd fellow who's alone in the hotel. She keeps him from leaving and she keeps him from moving on, having a life and a family of his own, because she was jilted by a spouse. And of course, this was Norman's fault, that his father was the way he was, and her life was stunted by having to stay and look after him and giving her own flesh and blood, her kin, her child, all sorts of guilt and abuse that had nothing even to do with him. But all he wanted to do was to make her proud of him, which never ever worked out for him, did it? So even though he tried to be the perfect son, she always found fault in everything that he did. So the next one is the X-Files Mutants mother. Now this episode was actually showed really late at night in the UK, but it was actually banned after it was aired. Nobody thought I was mental when I was trying to actually explain it. I believe it was incredibly late at night because of the severity of the topics that were in this episode. So Mutant Mommy has a disability and she's kept under the bed nailed to a piece of wood on wheels for easy access, easy storage, and she wanted to keep her family whole, and there was only one woman, and that woman was her, the mother, and many brothers, and yet they managed to repopulate the family many times. You get what I mean here? And this was beyond disgusting horrific. The X-Files episode, basically weird strange shit was happening. People, they actually found like bodies of unalive babies that obviously didn't come to term because they were born with all sorts of deformities that they couldn't survive in the womb nor after birth. So this wasn't going on forever, and this family still gives me the weirdest chill at the thought of it. Loving your kids in all the wrong places. Glad this was a one-off and they didn't keep going and dig deeper into the story or look into the family as they moved to start again, because the majority of the family were killed in the process of protecting the mother and lover and grandmother, sister, friend, who the fuck knows. They were related and they were all messed up. So it took Deliverance to a whole new level, that's for sure. So yes, the mutant mother thought she was doing right, protecting her family by repopulating the family when they were taken out. Yeah, I really wish I didn't go there. As I laugh about it. A Quiet Place. So not only did, Family, I don't really like this one, not only did one of our kids become a statistic of victims in the death rate, when the aliens that came in mass killed Earth, that if you made noise, the noise would end up, it would be the event of your death. Game over. But instead of thinking maybe not get pregnant again and bring another child into a silent world, she obviously was a fan of parent wrestling and got to go through childbirth in silence. And then having to keep a baby, in silence. Good luck with that, by the way. She puts herself through that. I get it. Birth control isn't well a priority during this time, but should be in this occasion think, God damn it. Losing a child in a world like this, but why be selfish enough to bring more into the world at the risk of losing them? Selfish. Yeah, definitely. Very, very selfish. But they again didn't look into the mother's loss of a child in the first place and having to notice the loss of a child and being witness to the loss of a child. Also going through childbirth in silence and alone and having to not make any noise. Then having to try and keep your baby quiet after they're born and continuously keep the child quiet in a world where if you make noise, you could be taken out of the game. Again, selfish, stupidity, and pointless. So, we're getting to the last two that I was keeping. I wasn't sure who was going to be number one and who was going to be number two. So we have Mrs. Loomis from Scream 2, posed as Debbie Salt. Managed to stay undetected by Sydney and Randy. These are the two people who would know, and also Dewey would as well, because they were from the same town, so they would know what his mother would look like or what she may have looked like before she was overweight and she lost the weight. She changed her look, like I said, lost a lot of weight, had some surgery to change herself so that she could not only terrorise Sydney and the rest of the people, the remainder of the Woodsboro lot. She takes out everyone that Sydney herself was close to after and planned all of this so that she could avenge her son's death, as in a son's death in her eyes. Billy was only doing what a good son was doing when he took Sydney's mother's life. As Debbie Salt and Mrs. Loomis described Sydney's mother as a whore. She was sleeping with Billy's father. But again, Billy's father, is he not to fucking blame as well? Why didn't she fucking kill him as well? Or have Billy kill him as well? That's what I mean. The women gets it all the fucking time. Why is it always the fucking women? Men and women, when they do these things, are both at fucking fault here. But anyway. So he was a good son, killed her mother. Billy was looking out for his mother, and that's why he took out Sydney's mum, Maureen. And in turn, he went about killing everybody, as you remember from the first movie, with his friend Stu. So when Sydney took out Billy and Stu, along with Gail Weathers and Dewey, Sydney very much, but she was avenging her son by going after everyone who had a part in her son's demise. Did she find success? Yes, to a point, but Sydney's still very much alive, and well, Randy's not, which is sad, and anyone that got in her way. She took protective mama bear a step too far and ended up joining her son, and I think she really wanted to join her son, to be honest, from the way she spoke and those crazy as fuck eyes. And Laurie Metcalf is brilliant. She played that really well. It was not just a wife scorned or a mother scorned. It was a mother's love. She was trying to get revenge for her son being taken away from her. So joining him was probably poetic justice for her, because she got a few kills in, but she just didn't get Sydney. But she terrorised her. She terrorised her to the point where those two films between her and her son, Sydney was always looking over her shoulder to the point where she had to go away, change her name, and live under the radar. So she technically got some sort of justice for herself. Friday the 13th, Mrs. Voorhees. Yes, the one answer to Ghostface trivia that was wrong in the opening scenes by Casey when she said that the Friday the 13th killer was Jason, and she had seen that movie 100 times it was Jason, yet she forgot that the original Friday the 13th was about a mother's revenge for her son's demise. So she didn't pay enough attention. Yes, that's right, Casey Becker, you didn't pay enough attention and you ended up getting, well, taking out the game, collateral damage. And one of the most iconic scenes of an opening of a movie, still to this day. So Mrs. Voorhees put her son with additional needs into a summer camp, where in the time of the late 70s, before technology, kids had sex, drugs and alcohol, and doing lots of young people things. No ties, no responsibilities, but they were running a fucking summer camp full of other people's children, where you should be responsible to some extent and not do the things that they were doing and not be teenagers. So he ended up drowning, and even though he had additional needs anyway, he ended up drowning at the hands of these young adults who were not capable of such responsibilities, and therefore there was a casualty, and it was Jason. So Mrs. Voorhees took it upon herself to not only go after these teens at said summer camp, she again terrorised them and took them down. She didn't care, because she lost her son at their hands, at the camp's hands. But there's where it really annoys me about Mrs. Voorhees. Yes, she was avenging her son's death. Yes, she was trying to protect him. Why did she send him there in the first place? If he had such additional needs that he needed someone to be watching over him more than a neurotypical child, why did she send him there in the first place? She must be feeling some sort of guilt sending him there when he shouldn't have been there. She must have known that as a loving, caring, protective mother, that no one will look after him like she would. So I'm not sure if she was punishing these kids out of the fact that she felt guilt of her own for making the decision and putting him in there in the first place, and them neglecting him and his demise and what happened to him, or she needed someone else to blame for her neglect, her guilt in sending him there in the first place. What do you think? She needs to look in the fucking mirror, because the only person that she needs to blame is herself for sending him without the support and protection that he needed. Look in the mirror, Mrs. Voorhees, the one who's responsible for this. is you. And hopefully you knew that. Protective mother, guilty mother. What do you think? Do you think that Mrs. Voorhees had some sort of unresolved guilt with herself and she was taking it out on the camp because she had no one else to outlet her grief that she had let something happen to Jason and that it was not their fault? In part, it was their fault, but she also let him go there. She also put him there and she also made the decision to allow him to go. So, which mother do you feel maybe should have seriously discussed parenthood and motherhood before actually becoming a mother from this list? Or any movie or TV show in this genre? What would you do? What would you do to protect and save your children from the ugliness that we live in? Who is your favourite unhinged, deranged horror mother? Tell us in the comments below, what should a mother in a horror movie be? What list do they need? What things they need to check off a list to be an unhinged, deranged mother with the attributes of a horror mother and their actions to avenge, to guilt, to abuse? Let me know in the comments below. If you like content like this, remember you can go check out Confession of the Darkside social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, and Buzzsprout. Let us know what you think over on our socials and let's get chatting about this topic and all the topics. Let's grow our community and let's spread how awesome the horror community is. Did you enjoy today? Happy Mother's Day to all. It was a bit more of a darker side of Mother's Day, wouldn't you say? But hey, that's just me. If you want to get to know us as individuals, then you can check us out in the links below. I am Darcy Darkness and my channel is called Behind the Mash Reviews. And I have a YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and a Kick, and it's all under Behind the Mash Reviews. Lunar has a YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram, and that's under Lunar X Rising. And he will be joining us hopefully again soon. Like I said, life happens, things happen, and all we wish is that he comes back to us safe and sound eventually. I'm not rushing him. I wouldn't do that. I've been enjoying doing some solo podcasts, have you noticed? There's been a lot more. If you need to reach out to us at any point, you can get us at confessionsfromthedarkside@gmail.com. Again, behind the mushrooms at gmail.com and lunarxrising@gmail.com. And that was Confessions from the Dark Side Mother. Confessions of the Dark Side present. Happy Smothers Day in the UK at least. And I'm Darcy Darkness. And that was Confessions from the Dark Side. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.